The High Court has ruled that local councils in England and Wales are breaking the law by holding prayers at the start of their meetings. The case was brought by or against Bideford Town Council in Devon by the National Secular Society and an atheist councillor. Keith Portius Wood is with the Society, and we can hear from the North Down councillor and DUP MLA Peter Weir. Good evening to you both.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Keith Portius Wood, this was decided on the basis that the council had no powers to hold prayers. It wasn't that anybody's rights were being infringed. The judge didn't appear to take any view on that.
Well, yes, but it was a spectacularly secular judgment, and he was saying that in council meetings that everybody should be treated equally, nobody should be disadvantaged or by the dint of their religion or lack of it. So it was a curious judgment because, in fact, the one key passage in his judgment did really make a profound equalities point.
Which was?
That as I was just saying, that in council meetings that there should be no people should not be made to feel uncomfortable by dint of the religious opinions of others.
Peter Weir, this was a ruling for England and Wales. Are there prayers at the start of your council meetings?
There are, and I think that's quite appropriate. I think what we've seen here is that there's an extreme element of secular thought which is extremely intolerant, particularly towards Christianity. And I think that is what has resulted in what I believe to be a disappointing rather petty judgment today.
Keith Portius Wood, you're intolerant of Christianity. I'll come back to you, Peter Weir.
There was a case in Portsmouth recently where a Christian councillor walked out of the council chamber because there was a Muslim prayer. There's a lot of Christian supremacy about all of this, I always think, the people who want to do it. Our solution is an entirely neutral one, which is that that there should be either a period of silence during the council meeting. Presumably the Almighty will be able to hear that with the silent prayers, or alternatively prayers before the council meeting, so those who wish to go to them can do so.
Peter, where there's Christian supremacy at work?
Well, no, I think what we have is an absolute intolerance of Christianity from some of the secularists that were behind today's proposals.
Like they were of the Muslims.
What, sorry?
Like they were of the Muslims in Portsmouth, I was talking about.
It would be interesting to see just whether, for instance, some of your society would be quite so keen on suppressing if it was a Muslim prayer in that regard. And I have to say,
oh yes, we would. Absolutely.
Nobody was compelled to be at a prayer. This is actually an attempt to try and deny Christians their right to worship. And indeed, it has been made very clear.
We've got the most greatest freedom of worship in Britain and anywhere in the world.
Well, you see, I have to say, with the greatest degree of respect on it, whenever I try to make a comment, you try and shout me down, which shows the level of intolerance that is existing from some of your folk. There is an extreme zealotry here, which is almost turning a degree of atheism into a form of religion itself, which has no level of tolerance towards Christian beliefs. And indeed, it's clear that it's a petty decision. It's one that's quite clearly going to be overturned because it's already been indicated by the Community Secretary, Eric Pickles, that this was not the intention of the legislation in the first place, and that indeed new legislation in terms of local government, new Local Government Act, will allow and permit the opportunity for councils to engage in a prayer at the start of the meeting.
See, that's the point, isn't it, Keith Portius Wood? If people want to pray, why shouldn't they be allowed to?
Well, we're very happy for them to pray just a few minutes earlier so that people who don't want to participate don't need to.
And anybody who doesn't wish to participate doesn't have to be there. There's no compulsion on anybody to be there. It is held before we get to the main business of any council. But I think it is an intolerance which this is the thin end of the wedge as well, because there are many of the people who are pushing this want to remove any opportunity for prayer at school assembly. Clearly, the next step would be the removal, for example, of a prayer at the cenotaph. Any public event in which there's any degree of expression of religion or Christian belief, there is an extremist element that wants to see that removed.
Is that right, Keith Portius?
It certainly doesn't apply to me. I will fight for freedom of religion, and we have freedom of religion in this country, but there is a time and a place for everything.
Well, it's a funny way to show freedom of religion by trying to suppress it and prevent it from happening. It was clearly what some of the people behind this action have taken.
Well, I'm sorry. We gave those alternatives, which I think were perfectly neutral to everyone. And what
about the alternative of allowing people to pray, allowing people to have a prayer? in a supposedly Christian country, people are not even to be tolerated to have the opportunity to have a prayer.
This is
Let him answer, Peter Weir.
Well, sorry?
Let him answer. Keith Portius would.
But this is a special situation where it's people who are conducting business as elected councillors. And we've heard that there are actually people who don't want to run for council because they think this is an antediluvian thing. And they do actually feel uncomfortable. Now, I think they're entitled to say that if that's what they feel. We've been inundated with councillors' calls today since this publicity came out saying they feel the same thing.
I've yet to meet a single person who said that they're not going to run for council because a prayer said at the beginning of the meeting. You know, I think that's just nonsense. It shows.
Well, we certainly haven't made it up, but I imagine it isn't the case in Northern Ireland, which is very much more religious than the rest of the United Kingdom.
And would you want today's ruling to extend to here? Keith Portius would.
Well, we would look and see whether the law as it stands in Northern Ireland is the same as it is in England. But if Mr. Pickles is thinking about changing it, then there wouldn't be any point. But I think there is a vulnerability under equalities legislation anyway.
Peter Weir?
No, I think that the law, certainly as the ruling that was applied today, only applies to England and Wales. The law is different here. And I think that we are a Christian country. I think that should be reflected.
All right.
A simple act of worship in terms of prayer. But unfortunately, it's the petty intolerance of a very small number of secularists who seem, if you forgive the phrase, hell-bent on actually removing any opportunity for public worship.
Keith Portius would, and Peter Weir, thank you both very much.